You're watching E.T.N. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob, and this video, we're doing this week's Fringe Entertainment, and we're going to be talking about 5 creepypastas that I think are pretty scary. Now, creepypastas have been out for a while, but I actually just started reading them maybe in the last 2 years, and I gotta admit, I've been hooked. And I think the advantage of getting so late to the party is that there was so much content to read in terms of these creepypasta stories that I could just indulge. And I've indulged in quite a few, but there are some particular ones that have really freaked me out. And those are the ones that we're going to talk about today. And we're going to start with number 5. Okay, rolling in at number 5 is Candle Dove. Now, this is a very interesting creepypasta because it's set up more like a forum exchange. I'm just so you know, I'm not going to give away any spoilers. I'm just going to kind of give you a bit of a taste of some of these creepypastas. In case you guys haven't read any of them, I don't want to spoil it. This one is set up like a forum exchange. And this story is pretty normal as you start reading it. It just looks like you're reading a forum. There are people exchanging how they feel about a certain show or trying to reflect on a certain show that they said they saw in the 70s as a kid. And the name of the show was Candle Dove. And it was about a little girl who basically believed that she was friends with pirates, and she would pretend that she'd be at this place talking to these pirates and exchanging with them. Each person on the forum would reflect on another person's memory of the show. And pretty soon they started kind of piecing together exactly what they remember from a full episode. They were talking about the cowardly pirate. They would talk about the villain, which had a very interesting mouth movement. Instead of going up and down, the mouth moved back and forth. But as they started reflecting more and more on the show, it begins to get a little bit creepier and creepier, until the very end when you find out exactly what it is they really reflect on, what it is they really remember. I'm not going to give it away, but if you get a chance and you haven't read it, go read it. It's pretty good. Okay, rolling in at number 4 is Robert the Doll. This one is super creepy, and one of the reasons it's very creepy is because Robert the Doll is actually real. You can see him at a museum in Key West, Florida, and basically the story goes like this. There was a young boy named Robert Jean, and he had a babysitter, caretaker, nanny, whatever you want to call it, and she made a doll for him. And soon thereafter, she was fired by Robert's mother because he caught her doing black magic. Well, shortly thereafter, strange things started to occur, and Robert really started to build a very strong bond with his doll. His mother would go to the door and hear him talking to his doll, and this seemed normal. This was perfectly fine. I think many of us could obviously argue that we've had this kind of relationship with a favorite toy. But then things really started to get weird, and every now and then the mother would go to the door and listen to the boy, her son, and the tone of his voice would change. Pretty soon she'd start opening the door and see him crowding in the corner in fear as the doll would be sitting on a chair or on the bed just staring at it. Well, I don't want to go into any further detail. I don't want to ruin the story. But what I will tell you is that the doll has had a history of just scaring people, to say the least. And there are some other things that have happened involving the doll that really is tough to believe. But when you consider that the doll is real and you can actually go visit the museum where the doll is, people who have visited the museum have said that in order to take a picture of the doll or with the doll, you have to ask it permission. And also that if you don't ask it permission, or if you make fun of the doll, yourself and anyone you came to the museum with will be cursed. If you want to read more details about this creepypasta, I highly suggest you go check it out, because there's a lot I did not talk about because I do not want to give it away, but this doll has quite a history. Okay, rolling in at number 3 is A Story to Scare My Son. I've read this one recently, I'd say maybe top 6 months ago. And boy, if you want to scare somebody or scare your kid, this will do it. It's not a long story, and I don't want to get into too much detail, but basically, a father pretty much gives his son a bit of a lecture about internet security and to be careful with who you exchange words with or who you interact with when you're on the internet. His son gave him kind of a shrug, like, yeah, okay, and his father decided to share a tale with him. Well, it was a tale that was enough to make the boy cry and go to his room. Now, if you want to know what his father told him, go read this creepypasta, because this one really, honestly, it scared the shit out of me. Okay, rolling in at number 2 is My Girlfriend Keeps Messaging Me on Facebook, or My Dead Girlfriend, I should say. Now, this is a classic, and I don't believe it started off as a creepypasta, but it definitely belongs in there because I remember reading about the story quite some time ago. It's a bit of a classic. And basically, this story is about a young man whose girlfriend unfortunately died in a car accident. And as the story goes, he basically keeps her Facebook account alive. And he puts pictures up, and at one point he felt that making some sort of monument for her really is not something she would have wanted. But then weird things start to occur, and this young man begins to get messages from his girlfriend's account to him. Now, at first, he doesn't think anything of it because the mother also has access to the account. So he obviously talks to the mom and tells her what happened, and she denies it. In fact, when looking at her record, she hadn't actually been on that account more than once since the death of her daughter. Really not fazed by this, he figured at this point maybe some of her friends, close friends, who would maybe guess a password or hacked, might have gotten in there and are maybe messing with him. But as he really begins to investigate exactly what's going on, really strange things start to occur. And these messages start popping up more often. And as they pop up more often, more detail is given as to what this ominous messenger is telling him. As the story gets to the end of it, and I don't want to spoil it, the revelation is quite incredible as some certain details start to pop up that really start to make this young man think about what exactly is going on. This is actually one of my favorites. If you haven't read it, I highly suggest you do. It even includes pictures. So I don't know if this really happened. I guess it's easy to set up having something look like this could happen, but nonetheless, it really does make you think. And if you haven't read it, I suggest you go. It's really, really creepy. Okay, and finally, rolling in at number 1, The Russian Sleep Experiment. Holy wow. When I first read this, I was so glad that the lights were on and that I wasn't alone, because if I had been, I don't know if I could have slept that night. But to give you the gist of this, and by the way, if you have not read this one, unless you like completely being creeped out and scared out of your mind, I would highly suggest you read it with the lights on, read it in the afternoon, make sure someone's around, and it's rather graphic too in description. But the story goes like this, again, without giving away too much detail. 5 political prisoners in Russia were brought to a facility and locked in a room together. And basically the Russians told these gentlemen that if they complete the experiment over the course of 30 days, they can be set free. Now, they would lock the room every night, or actually the room was always locked, but every night they would emit some sort of gas, or, if you want to call it like a chemical weapon. And basically this chemical slowly but surely started having the effect of giving these men sleep deprivation. Now, initially, nothing really happened. The first week, nothing really occurred, but by midway through the experiment, in fact, I think it said day 14 as you read the story, weird things really started to happen. And I don't want to get into too much detail, but needless to say that from that 14th day going forward, a lot of crazy things started to happen to these men. They started reacting to not getting any sleep to the point that they never wanted to sleep again. They exercised tolerance that you could never fathom that a human could have. And they did things to themselves that you would never think a human could survive. Well, if that doesn't interest you enough, I don't know what will. But I can tell you, brace yourself, because that one is is you need a strong stomach. And that's it. Those are the 5 creepypastas that I've read that really kind of stuck in my mind and I thought were really, really kind of creepy. If you have any creepypastas you remember that I did not mention here, let me know in the comments. If it's something that I haven't read before, I would love to check it out. Let me know also if you've read any of the ones that I've listed, and tell me in the comment section how they made you feel. Were any of them creepy for you, or did you find other ones creepier? Anyway, that's it for this video. Until next week, and also one last thing. Let me know in the comment section as well if you really like the series. This is our 3rd week in doing it, and this week we obviously did a creepypasta. Last week we did a UFO, and then the week before that we did scary places in my backyard of Massachusetts. So if you like this series, let me know. I'm getting a lot of good feedback for it so far, and I really enjoy doing it, so I might be upping it to more than once a week. So I want to know if you guys are down with that. And if you have any requests or if there's any kind of content that you want me to cover within this category, let me know and I'd be more than happy to do the research and do the video. Until next time, this is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. Don't forget to subscribe and join the Nation Facebook page.